Another wonder in central Java is the small but beautiful Mended temple. It's on the itinerary for one of the places for us to visit during our upcoming meditation and wellness retreat in Indonesia in September. Located a little over 3 kilometers from Borobudur, this temple may appear insignificant to the mighty Borobudur, but is home to an exquisitely carved 3-meter-high statue of Buddha. Unlike most statues of Buddha that are usually carved in the lotus position or in a laying down position, this Buddha is seated, Western style, majestically in a throne with both feet firmly placed on the ground. A massive, beautiful, sprawling ficus tree stands next to the temple, a quiet symbol of endurance and patience, two essential qualities on the spiritual path. Next to the Mended temple is the Mendut Buddhist Monastery, which has beautifully kept grounds and small ponds of lotuses and lilies. This exquisite temple, around 3.5 kilometers east of Borobudur, may look insignificant compared with its mighty neighbor, but it houses the most outstanding statue in its original setting of any temple in Java. The magnificent 3 meters high figure of the Buddha is flanked by bodhisattvas, Loksvara on the left and Vairapana on the right. The Buddha is also notable for his posture. He sits Western style with both feet on the ground. The temple is particularly evocative at night, when spotlit against the evening sky, as the soaring inner chamber feels charged with an almost supernatural energy. Guards here will allow visitors to enter Mended after dark if accompanied by a local guide. Speak to Jaka. Next to the temple is the leafy and prim Mendut Buddhist Monastery, studded with palms and clumps of golden bamboo. Guests are welcome to join the group meditations here at 7 p.m. daily. You can also stay for 3-day, 3-night meditation retreats. The monastery is home to Buddhist Theravada monks. It also hosts a variety of Buddhist religious occasions. For instance, Indonesian Buddhist women were holding a gathering the day I visited this monastery. Mended Monastery consists of a number of meditation halls, big and small. This was one of its smaller halls where, about 8 years ago, I saw monks gathered and chanted. Now I stood a little while before its open doors and deeply breathed godly scented air. At its center, the monastery features its iconic stupa of the meditating Buddha. Beneath the bright sun, you can see its building blocks clearly from the distance. The Buddha's face retains its subtle smile. Apart from attention-grabbing stupas and statues, trees are also wonderful inhabitants of Mended Monastery. There were bodhi, sala, kantil, acacia, jackfruit, mango trees, and others I can't name. I spotted jasmine with white and orange petals. The whole complex was natural and artistic. The central amazement, however, was the silence all around. It creates a very magical experience that, when you walk out of the gate into the outer marketplace environment, there were dozens of merchandise stalls. You wonder what absorbed all the noise. Buddhist monasticism is one of the earliest surviving forms of organized monasticism and one of the fundamental institutions of Buddhism. Monks and nuns, called bhikkhu and bhikkhuni, are responsible for the preservation and dissemination of the Buddha's teaching and the guidance of Buddhist lay people. 3 surviving traditions of monastic discipline govern modern monastic life in different regional traditions: Theravada, Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, Dharmaguptaka, and Mulasarvastivada. According to Buddhist tradition, the order of monks and nuns was founded by Gautama Buddha during his lifetime between the 5th and 4th centuries BC. The Buddhist monastic lifestyle grew out of the lifestyle of earlier sects of wandering ascetics, some of whom the Buddha had studied under. It was not really isolationist or hermetic. The Sangha was dependent on the lay community for basic provisions of food and clothing, and in return Sangha members helped guide lay followers on the path of Dharma. Individuals or small groups of monks, a teacher and his students, or several monks who were friends, traveled together, living on the outskirts of local communities and practicing meditation in the forests. Monks and nuns were expected to live with a minimum of possessions, which were to be voluntarily provided by the lay community. Lay followers also provided the daily food that monks required, and provided shelter for monks when they were needed. Some Buddhist schools assert that during the Buddha's time, many retreats and gardens were donated by wealthy citizens for monks and nuns to stay in during the rainy season, although there is as yet no archaeological evidence to support this claim. Evidence only exists for such monastic enclosures at a much later date. Out of this tradition grew two kinds of living arrangements for monastics, as detailed in the Theravada section of the Vinaya and Mulasarvastivada texts. 1. Avasa, a temporary house for monastics called a vihara. Generally more than one monk stayed in each house with each monk in his own cell, called a parivana. 2. Arama, a more permanent and more comfortable arrangement than the avasa. This property was generally donated and maintained by a wealthy citizen. This was more lavish, as suggested by the name. Arama means both pleasant and park. It generally consisted of residences within orchards or parks. One of the more famous aramu is Anathai Pindikas, known as Anathai Pindikasa Aram, built on Prince Jeta's Grove. It had buildings worth 1.8 million gold pieces built in a beautiful grove, with the total gift worth 5.4 million gold pieces. After the parinirvana of the Buddha, the Buddhist monastic order developed into a primarily cenobitic movement. The practice of living communally during the rainy Vasa season, prescribed by the Buddha, gradually grew to encompass a settled monastic life centered on life in a community of practitioners. Most of the modern disciplinary rules followed by monks and nuns, the Patimokkha, relate to such existing, prescribing in great detail proper methods for living and relating in a community of monks or nuns. The number of rules observed varies with the order. Theravada monks follow around 227 rules. There are a larger number of rules specified for bhikkhunis. Rituals. During full moon in May or June, Buddhists in Indonesia observe the annual Vesak ritual by walking from Mended through Purwan to Borobudur. 5. The ritual takes the form of a mass Buddhist prayer and pradakshina, circumambulation, around the temple. To followers of traditional Kajayan, Javanese mysticism, or Buddhism, praying in the Mended temple is believed to fulfill wishes, such as deliverance from sickness. Childless couples, for example, pray at the bas-relief of Harati for a child, since in traditional Javanese beliefs, Harati is a symbol of fertility, patroness of motherhood and protector of children. Both are kept in the Mended temple before being carried during the march procession to symbolize enlightenment. There will also be a magical pinnacle event on May 11th, where thousands of puja lanterns are released up to the sky in the end of the Pilgrim's March. The lanterns will be released from Mendut, Purwan and Borobudur temples, symbolizing the enlightenments for all universe.